Hello world, this is Edward Bevilacqua in Las Vegas on Friday, December 7th, 2018. It's sprinkling outside, drizzling, and as you may recall, those of you who've been watching this, I like to give the weather information because of this, because of global warming. So 100 years from now, people can have a little bit of a record of what life was like in 2018 at the end of the year. So today's topic is the people you associate with. But I want to once again give a little overview as to what we do and acknowledgement and thanks to our students at Casa Grande, students in Reno, other students in Las Vegas, WellCare, relationship, and the new exciting things that are about to happen in January, which currently are sort of, in quotes, rock and roll quotes, secret. Not secret, but haven't announced them yet. So good things are happening because it turns out there's a lot of struggling people out there. In fact, most people are closer to struggling than they are to not struggling. Even though the economy is getting much better, it's been decades of stagnant growth for individual people. In fact, 40 years ago, it was less common to have two parents working. Today, it's less common to have one parent working. And divorce continues to rise, et cetera, et cetera. And then there are challenges in society. So our program is designed to help struggling adults become successful. We help struggling adults learn the tools and techniques for success. Success for us is very simple: money plus meaning and purpose. Money is merely a tool to enable people to experience more. So the more money you have, the more you can experience. If you don't have any money and you need food, there's not a lot of options. If you have a couple dollars, here's a few options: $5 more options, $10 more options, $100 more options. Money just is the ability to experience more. It's not the root of all. It's not the root of evil. It's not lack of money. It's not the root of evil. Money is just a tool, like a hammer. A hammer can be used to make things. A hammer can be used to break things. Same with money. Meaning and purpose is service to others. And the easiest way to give service to others is to sacrifice your time with no expectation of a reward, where the goal is to make the other person's life better. And when you do that, a neurotransmitter will be released called oxytocin, which has a lot of benefits. But under our definition, you cannot be successful unless you have both money and meaning and purpose. And our path to success, okay, great, so that sounds successful. How do I do it? Well, our path to success is simply having power. And so once again, we'll define it. Power is the ability to get other people to do what you want. In business, that's called management. In the military, it's called leadership. If you find when you hear the word power, you put connotations on it like that's bad, or yeah, power, I want that. Then that's a problem. That's like money. If you think money is a source of happiness, no, it's just a tool. Power is just the ability to get other people to do what you want. In business, it's called management. And in the military, it's called leadership. Power doesn't mean you manipulate people. In fact, in our program, the idea is to ultimately, the highest part of power would be to be able to self-motivate people. Not to manipulate them, that would be a negative way, and not to just motivate them, but to self-motivate them. Because if it's about motivation, that means you're in control of them. And that means if you step out of that picture, the motivation might be gone. So if you can imagine this cup of coffee, if I put my finger in there and then I pull my finger out, how quickly does that hole fill up? Instantaneously. So the problem with having to have power by motivating people is the second you walk away, the motivation stops. The self-motivation is a better means to do it, better technique. So our purpose, the reason we exist, is to help struggling adults learn the tools and techniques of success, which means to learn how to get money and have meaning and purpose in their life. And our path to that is power. And we focus on the 10 laws of power, the actual 10 laws of power, not the book, the 48 laws of power. That's just a book. The actual laws of power are things that people don't learn unless you get into higher levels of education, law school, things like that, because giving the actual laws of power to people is like giving a loaded revolver, a loaded cocked revolver to a 5-year-old in a crowded room. Bad things are going to happen, because it turns out it's easier to use a hammer to break things than it is to make things. Tools are usually easier to use to cause damage than to cause good. It takes practice to learn how to use a hammer to drive nails properly. When you first start using a hammer to drive nails, you get the nail in a little bit, tap, tap, tap. Then you try putting some force to drive the nail through the wood into the other piece of wood, and the nail bends, and then you keep knocking it down, and then you use the claw, and then all of a sudden you've got a mess on your hands, and it's a waste of time. So it takes longer to use the laws of power, any tool, to use it for good than it does to just not good. Or as Jordan Peterson would say, you'd be like a chimpanzee with a wrench trying to fix a helicopter, and whack, and it's fixed. No, it's not fixed. It's very complicated. So that's why people don't know the laws of power, because they will use them to abuse people. The laws of power are just tools. They're not good, they're not bad, it's how you use them. It's just like a hammer. If you use it for bad, that's like Star Wars, the dark side of the Force. You end up causing damage, or you end up, the good people stay away from you. All you're left with is bad people. And then when the bad people say, oh yeah, you're another bad person, stay away from you, now you're just left with associating with evil people. And if you're bad, when bad meets evil, evil always wins. So it's not good to go that direction. If you use the power, or let's say back to Star Wars, the Force for good, you become a Jedi Knight, everybody's life is better, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the purpose of our course. And this morning I saw something about Warren Buffett talking about associate with people who are going to help you move forward. We're influenced by the people we associate with. The people we associate with influence us the most. Our students generally accept this as a truth. Yeah, okay, I get it, right? Yeah, if I hang around with good people, that's a lot better than hanging around with bad people. Okay, good, so that's easy. That's the easy part. However, when you walk away, leave the person to their own, leave our students to their own, leave people on their own devices, and watch what they do, and invariably, they will go back to associating with not live people, people on television, people on social media, people in music, who are going the other direction, that are not about meaning and purpose, that are not about sacrificing for others, that are not about making other people's lives better, but they're about dopamine stuff. Get it, I gotta get this, I gotta get that thing. And so it's not, so I would say the Warren Buffett thing isn't just applied to actual living people, it relates to people. One-way things where you're just watching people behave, that's an association with people. If you find that you choose to spend, i.e. waste your time watching people who are doing destructive things, that's the consequence that's going to happen for you. You need to focus, instead of watching people on TV killing people or stealing from people or taking things from people, watch historical things of the founding fathers, or Stoicism, or Shawshank Redemption, or Star Wars, things where it's very clear, here's good, here's bad, and I can choose to go the bad route, like Ignatius, or I can choose to go, not that Ignatius went the bad route, but he found he had a choice, right? So if people remember from class, Ignatius, after he was injured by the cannonball, when he was doing his painful recovery, had two things to do. One was to imagine the future and fantasize about the future, remember his past exploits in court, where it was as a bad guy, fighting, gambling, women, raping women, taking advantage of women, or by today's standards, at least, that's what would be. Back then, that was normal for his lot. Just being a not good guy. He could remember that and fantasize about going back to that life, or he also had two books to read, The Life of Saints and The Life of Christ. And after a while, he noticed that when he was done thinking about the past and his possible future at court, it left him dry, desolate. He didn't have good feelings about it. But then after he started thinking, after reading from the books and thinking about it, it inspired him. So that's the same thing that happens when we're watching negative things on TV, people doing bad things. That becomes our normal. And the problem with that is you're not going to change. You can't say, I want to be successful, but I'm not willing to do the things that successful people do. And I think everybody who's been in AA or some level of pop culture psychoanalysis that's kind of the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. You can't expect to become successful by doing things that people who are not successful do. And watching bad people do things on TV or in movies, taking advantage of other people, you can't say that's not going to affect my behavior. That becomes your normal. That's your, as David Foster Wallace would say, that becomes your default mode. This is water for you. That's the thing that's so enveloping around you that you don't even see that it exists. So the easiest thing to do is stop all negative stuff. Stop watching negative shows, stop listening to negative music, stop doing things that are going to release dopamine, the sex, drugs, rock and roll hormone that's going to make you want to do stuff like that. Stop doing that stuff, stop watching that stuff, and focus on stuff that's going to help you become successful. Why waste your time watching a negative movie when you could be doing something on YouTube of learning how to be successful in business, how to sell, how to build things, how to do apps. There's a million things, positive things you can do. Why waste your time doing negative things? Or if you're going to waste your time doing negative things, stop the fantasy in your brain that you're going to become successful, because you won't. Success is very simple. You just have to do the things that lead to success. You just have to do the things that focus on getting you money, that are also associated with meaning and purpose, service to other people. That's all you have to do. And the easiest thing to do is sacrifice your time with no expectation of return. It's not an investment. It's a sacrifice of your time with no expectation of anything in return. And what you're going to find is when you help other people, you're going to feel good. And you're going to feel good because a neurotransmitter, oxytocin, is released in your system. And that's going to be good for your body. And then hopefully, not hopefully, but if you keep doing it, it's going to happen more and more and more, and you're going to want to do it more. And then the hopefully part is you stop doing things to release dopamine. The stuff that, as Simon Sinek says, dopamine is highly, highly, highly addictive. And people that have addiction problems, it's because their happiness comes from the release of dopamine, which comes from doing these things. And then if we go to Johann Hari, what we can attach to that is, generally we do the dopamine things, the addiction things, because we've severed relationships with other people. We'd rather be smoking, drinking, gambling, pornography, etc. We'd rather be doing that than having relationships with other people. So per Warren Buffett, it's about the people you associate with. And our point here in this short little video is it's not just the actual people. It's also the people that you see and observe and have a bonding, neural network bonding with on TV, on social media, on the radio, music, etc. That is also associating with people. And if those relationships are not positive, if they don't lead towards meaning and purpose, you're not going to get there. So it's a choice you have to make. And so anyway, thank you for being there, students. Thank you very much. Thank you to our partners, Nevada Department of Corrections, Mr. Scally, who might be watching this right now, and WellCare, our other partners. Thank you for being there. Thank you for the opportunity to help people. Till tomorrow.